All right, ready to dive in? Today we're tackling Agile product ownership.
Ooh, good one.
We've got a great video to unpack, Henrik Nieberg's Agile product ownership in a nutshell,
Classic.
and an article from LearnXYZ called Certified Product Owner.
Nice. Should give us a lot to work with.
Definitely, our mission is to help the listeners really grasp what a product owner does in the Agile world.
It's such a vital role,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think a lot of folks have misconceptions about it.
So true. It's way more than just like managing a project, right?
Right, it's about guiding a product toward success, but in this really specific way.
Keeping everyone happy along the way, the stakeholders, the dev team.
And in the end, the users, of course.
Exactly. So first things first, paint a picture for us. What is a product owner?
Okay, so I think both our sources really highlight this idea of a bridge.
Yeah, the bridge between those who want the product, the stakeholders.
And the team actually building it.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, they take those desires, those needs.
Sometimes they're just vague ideas, right?
Absolutely, and turn them into something tangible that a dev team can work with.
It's almost like that game, where you whisper a phrase around a circle.
Oh yeah, telephone.
Right, it comes out totally different at the end.
The product owner's job is to keep that message true to the original, no matter how many hands it passes through.
That's brilliant. And it
Okay.
shows just how crucial communication is in this role.
Totally.
Henrik Nieberg, he uses this example of Pat in his video.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Someone's super passionate, right? About solving a problem for specific people,
Even if they don't have all the answers figured out yet.
which I bet a lot of our listeners can relate to, right? Like having that drive to solve something.
Absolutely. And LearnXYZ comes at it from the more formal side,
The official definition, yeah.
highlighting the product owner's role in shaping the product vision, managing the backlog.
Keeping everyone in the loop.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of the backlog, that's kind of like the product owner's to-do list, but on steroids, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's got everything in there, features, improvements, bug fixes,
All those little things.
but it's way more dynamic than a static list. It's constantly changing.
It's got to be, to keep up with Agile.
The product owner, they're the one deciding what gets tackled first, always keeping value in mind.
Maybe we had this great analogy about a printer queue.
Oh, I love that one.
Everyone wants to print their stuff, but the PO steps in and it's like, hold on, this is the priority right now.
It's about making those strategic decisions,
Not just working through a list in order,
which often means saying no.
which I imagine is a tough part of the job.
It is. LearnXYZ points out everyone wants their thing done yesterday,
Of course they do. Who doesn't?
but the product owner has to be the voice of reason.
Making sure the team doesn't get overloaded.
Right. They stay focused on what truly matters.
So saying no is key, but how does a product owner do that well?
It can't just be like, nope, not happening.
Right. How do you balance those expectations from stakeholders? Keep everyone on board.
It all comes down to communication, being transparent.
Letting people know why.
Yeah, a good product owner, they'll connect their decisions back to the overall vision, the strategy.
So it's not arbitrary.
They might say, look, I see how important this feature is to you.
But right now we're focused on X because it delivers more value to our users.
Exactly.
So you're framing the no within the bigger picture.
Not just shutting down ideas.
And both our sources really highlight collaboration, right?
Oh, big time. The product owner isn't just dictating.
It's not my way or the highway.
They work with the dev team, with the stakeholders,
To understand the value of each item.
and how much effort is involved.
It's a constant conversation.
Refining, refining, refining.
And that's where backlog grooming comes in.
Ah, yes, this term that always gets a chuckle.
Not literal grooming, we should clarify.
More like, cleaning out your closet.
Making sure everything is organized, prioritized, ready to go.
Yeah, not just tidying up, but making sure tasks are crystal clear, estimated, broken down.
The PO and the dev team get into the weeds here.
Totally.
I love Nieberg's analogy about apples and strawberries.
Oh, yeah. Brilliant.
In those early stages, it's more about relative sizing.
Like, is this task bigger than that one?
Not about getting hung up on exact estimates.
We can refine those later.
Getting a sense of the landscape before you zoom in.
And again, very collaborative.
Okay, so we've got a groomed backlog. We're saying no strategically.
We're collaborating like pros.
But here's where it gets interesting. Nieberg highlights that value isn't just about those flashy, customer-facing features.
That's so important to remember,
Sometimes the most valuable work, it happens behind the scenes.
especially early on.
Think technical experiments, prototyping, setting up the infrastructure,
Things users might not directly see.
but they're crucial for the product in the long run.
It's like building a house. You don't start with the fancy wallpaper.
You need that solid foundation first.
Sometimes what stakeholders think is valuable.
Might not be the best thing to build right now.
And this is where the product owner, as a value maximizer, really comes in.
They gotta understand the different types of value.
And make strategic decisions based on the context.
Speaking of strategic decisions, I love how Nyberg visually represents those trade-offs a PO juggles.
Oh yeah, it's a lot.
Knowledge value versus customer value, short-term fixes versus long-term benefits.
And of course, the classic build the right thing versus build it right versus build it fast.
So many factors.
The cathedral versus camper van analogy.
I love that one.
Sometimes you just need that quick, functional solution.
Sometimes you're building something to last. So, big takeaway, there's no single right answer.
It's all about context.
Balancing those competing forces, figuring out what's most important now.
And then communicating it clearly to everyone.
This sounds like a pretty demanding role.
It definitely takes a special set of skills, understanding the technical side, but also being a great communicator.
Being able to speak to developers, to stakeholders, to everyone.
But it's also super rewarding, seeing a product come to life based on your guidance.
And that guidance goes beyond just features and deadlines, right?
Sure. LearnXYZ talks about delivering release plans, managing expectations.
Which ties into Nyberg's no-lying rule.
Especially about timelines.
Honesty and transparency are crucial, building that trust.
With both the dev team and stakeholders.
It's about being upfront about what you know and what you don't know.
Which leads us to the cone of uncertainty.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing, but let's save that for next time.
Sounds good, cliffhanger.
We'll unpack this cone of uncertainty when we're back. Stick around. Okay, so this cone of uncertainty, it sounds kind of ominous.
Right.
But I'm sure it's not as scary as the name suggests.
Hopefully not. Think of it this way, like at the start of a project, right? You got a ton of unknowns.
Makes sense.
You might have a great vision.
The big picture.
But all the details are still fuzzy.
You don't know what you don't know yet.
And as you go, as you progress, you learn more, you make decisions.
The path becomes clearer.
The cone of uncertainty is basically that shrinking space of the unknown.
So at the wide end, early on, there are so many ways the project could go.
Tons of possibilities.
And as you move toward the narrow end, you're zeroing in on the most likely path.
The one that makes the most sense based on what you've learned.
And a good product owner, they understand this.
Not only understand it, but they communicate it.
To the stakeholders, right.
Big time. Instead of promising unrealistic deadlines based on early assumptions.
Which is so tempting to do, I bet.
It is, but it sets you up for failure.
Better be upfront.
A good PO might say, okay, right now, we estimate this feature will take, say, 6 weeks.
But as we learn more, that could shift.
We'll keep you updated as the cone narrows.
That kind of transparency builds so much trust.
No one likes surprises, especially when it comes to deadlines.
And it ties back to those different types of value we discussed earlier.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Knowledge value versus customer value.
At the start, you're often investing heavily in that knowledge value.
Those experiments, the prototypes.
All about reducing risk, gathering info.
Which leads to a better product down the line.
You got to make informed decisions, not just rush into building stuff.
It's like doing your research before a big purchase.
Exactly.
You might not see immediate results, but it leads to a better choice in the long run.
And as you gain more knowledge, then the focus can shift.
More toward that direct customer value, the features, the enhancements.
The stuff users get excited about.
That's a balance for sure.
But a product owner who gets that interplay between those types of value.
They can really guide the product in the right direction.
Steer the ship, so to speak.
It's like at the start, you're navigating through fog.
Relying on instruments, intuition.
But then the fog clears, you see those landmarks, adjust your course.
I like that. And remember, even when things seem clear, obstacles pop up.
Always.
That's where the PO's adaptability is key.
Got to be ready to change course.
Reassess priorities, keep things moving in the right direction.
Which reminds me of something both sources touched on.
What's that?
That tension between the different roles in Agile.
Ah, yes.
You've got the product owner pushing for the right thing.
The dev team wants to build it, right?
And the Scrum Master is all about moving fast.
Sometimes those forces clash a bit.
How does a PO navigate that?
It's like a dance, really. Communication, collaboration, understanding.
To be able to see all sides.
The value proposition, the technical feasibility, the time constraints.
And sometimes you got to make tough calls.
Balancing stakeholder needs with the team's capacity, the reality of the timeline.
It's never easy.
But a skilled PO acts as a facilitator, bringing everyone together.
Finding solutions that work for the product as a whole.
That sweet spot, delivering value, maintaining quality, keeping up the pace.
So it's leading through influence.
Yeah, not just authority.
And again, communication is huge.
Both sources really hammer that home.
Keeping everyone informed on the same page.
The product owner is the hub, the central point of contact.
Connecting all the pieces.
Communicating with developer stakeholders, designers, marketers, even customers sometimes.
Like a multilingual translator.
Bridging those gaps between different groups.
And that communication has to be clear, honest, consistent.
Just like with the cone of uncertainty, Nyberg's no lying rule.
Transparency builds trust.
It makes sure everyone's working from the same set of facts.
Which gets even trickier when you've got multiple teams, multiple product owners.
Oh yeah, that adds a whole other layer.
Things could get messy fast if communication breaks down.
Imagine you've got several teams working on different parts of a huge product.
Each with their own PO.
You got to make sure those POs are aligned.
On the overall vision.
That they're talking to each other effectively.
Not accidentally creating dependencies or conflicts.
It's like conducting an orchestra.
Making sure all the sections are playing in harmony.
Working towards a unified sound, not just a bunch of noise.
And in a bigger organization, you might even have a chief product owner.
Or a product leadership team to provide that overall guidance.
Makes me think of those massive construction projects.
Different crews, different parts of the building.
You need someone to make sure the plumbing fits with the electrical.
And that the walls go up in the right order.
Communication is key in construction, in software development.
Meetings, documentation, clear channels.
So even with multiple teams, multiple POs,
those core principles stay the same.
Understand the customer, maximize value, prioritize, communicate clearly.
But now it's happening at a bigger scale.
It takes even more finesse, more coordination.
It's a challenge.
But a rewarding one, I imagine.
It is, seeing a complex product come together through the efforts of a well-coordinated team.
It's like putting together a giant puzzle.
Each piece is a different team's contribution.
And the PO sees the big picture, guiding everyone toward that final click.
Love that image. It reminds me of something we haven't touched on yet.
Oh.
What's that? The human element of all this.
Okay, yeah. It's not just about backlogs and timelines.
It's about working with people.
Understanding their motivations, creating an environment where they can do their best work.
That's where things get really interesting.
It's easy to get lost in all the technical stuff when talking about product ownership.
Oh, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, you're working with people.
Real, live human beings.
Not just pixels on a screen.
Exactly, and a good product owner gets that.
It takes a different skill set, right?
Totally. You're not just managing tasks.
You're leading a team, motivating them.
Sometimes you're even a bit of a therapist, listening to their concerns.
I bet that's true.
Oh, it is. You got to create a positive environment, one where people feel valued, respected.
LearnXYZ talks about leadership skills being essential for product owners.
Makes sense, right?
It's not about micromanaging every detail.
It's about empowering people to do their best work.
Inspiring them, giving them the space to thrive.
And creating a shared sense of purpose.
When the team is invested in the product.
And they understand the why.
They're going to go the extra mile.
Every time.
And again, communication is key here.
Can't stress that enough.
It's not just about delegating tasks.
You got to explain the vision. The rationale behind decisions.
Keep everyone in the loop.
Transparency, both in what's being built and why.
When the team sees the big picture.
They feel more connected to the mission.
And even though Nyberg doesn't explicitly talk about the human element in his video,
Sure.
I think his emphasis on no lying, on building trust.
It's all connected.
A product owner who is honest even when things are tough.
That earns respect, loyalty from the team.
It's about building those strong relationships.
Based on mutual trust.
The team needs to know that the PO has their back.
That they'll shield them from distractions.
Advocate for their needs.
So the product owner is kind of like a buffer.
Absorbing some of that external pressure.
Creating a safe space for the team to focus.
And it's not just about protection, it's about celebrating wins, too.
Absolutely. A good PO recognizes and celebrates success, no matter how small.
Making sure everyone feels appreciated.
Because it truly is a team effort.
Even the most brilliant product owner in the world.
They can't do it alone.
You need that talented, motivated team.
And that's why building a strong team culture is so important.
Where people feel comfortable sharing ideas, taking risks.
Learning from mistakes, that's where innovation happens.
It's like those sports teams where everyone genuinely enjoys playing together.
They trust each other, they have each other's backs.
Those teams tend to outperform, even when facing tough competition.
And just like in sports, communication is key.
Keeping those lines open, encouraging feedback, making sure everyone's voice is heard.
Especially when you have multiple teams, multiple product owners.
You need everyone rowing in the same direction.
Not just within their own teams, but across the whole
Yeah,
organization.
it's about fostering that shared purpose,
Creating a culture of collaboration.
breaking down those silos.
Regular communication, joint planning, chances for teams to interact.
So the product owner is a leader, not just within their team,
But within the entire product development ecosystem.
setting the tone, shaping the culture.
It's a pretty impactful role.
It really is, requiring a unique blend of skills.
Technical knowledge, business sense, communication, empathy.
It's pretty inspiring to think about the impact a skilled product owner can have.
Not just on the product, but on the people, the organization.
Well, I think we've successfully navigated this deep dive into Agile product ownership,
We covered a lot of ground.
backlog grooming, the cone of uncertainty, saying no, building a high-performing team,
Hopefully our listeners have a much clearer picture now.
of what a product owner does, the skills they need.
If you're thinking about this career path,
Definitely explore those resources, connect with the Agile community.
it's a challenging but incredibly rewarding journey.
Remember, it's not just about building products.
It's about building relationships, collaborating, making a positive impact.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time.
Keep learning, keep exploring, keep building amazing things.